Let's talk some sports, baby.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
Welcome to A Drink of Wisdom with Jay Wise and Nathan Drinkard. I'm your host, Cody Ward. Thank you for spending some of your time with us this morning. And as a reminder to all our listeners, besides being on all your favorite podcast platforms, A Drink of Wisdom is also on YouTube with each show segment available. And on over, if you like what you hear, we would appreciate your subscription. What's going on, guys? A little Saturday morning. Got a little bit of football coming up over the next day or two. How you doing?
Yeah, Saturday morning special, and so much to get to because the NFL has blessed us with, the extra wild card game. So, time to let's roll.
Let's talk some sports, baby. Yeah, I'm with Jay. You heard him. Hey, no time to waste. Et cetera, et cetera. Don't let that get too far ahead of you. We say what they don't and see what they want. You know what it is. Let's roll, baby.
Mm-hmm. And episode 26, we're digging into the AFC and NFC wildcard weekend. We're also previewing the college football playoff national championship. But we're going to go ahead and begin this morning down in Houston. Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson is apparently quite unhappy with his team after a 4-12 season and some important decisions that he was not a part of. Watson was very unhappy with the DeAndre Hopkins trade back in March. I saw his best weapon shipped off for a bad contract and a second-round pick. This offseason, the Texans moved quickly to hire Patriot executive Nick Cassero as their new GM, but apparently Watson was not consulted and his input was not factored in. This has damaged his relationship with team ownership, and he's reportedly ignoring their phone calls and mulling a trade request. Watson just signed a 4-year, $156 million contract extension, which kicks in this season. So, Jay, is Watson's grievances justified, and should the Texans even consider trading him?
I think that there's a lot to unpack here as far as, Deshaun Watson and the current circumstances that he finds himself in. My question up front, just off the cuff, what the hell took him so long? I mean, was Deshaun Watson the last one to get the memo that things down in Houston with the Texans organization seemed like they were not going quite well? I mean, you need look no further than DeAndre Hopkins getting traded. And, it clearly from that moment, it was pretty apparent to me that Bill O'Brien didn't seem to have a clue what he was doing as the general manager, because, as we know, he was, trying to operate both roles as head coach and general manager. And finally, the Houston Texans ownership, they, woke up from their, 4 or 5 year coma that they were in. And they said, what are you doing? You're trading away our best player. Let's you can go ahead and leave. And we know they hadn't, they had a gap for where they, didn't have a general manager. Now they've hired this guy, Nick Cassero, who I believe was the guy they were trying to get last season. Yeah, they couldn't get him. Now they've apparently gotten their guy. But as I'm reading this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Deshaun Watson's unhappy that he wasn't consulting the GM process. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I guess that he had like given the team some picks and some ideas for GM. They're like, "That's sweet, man, thanks," and then they just went and hired the dude they wanted anyway.
Yeah, I'm a little conflicted on that one, because it seems to me that because I get the premise of all this. You have a franchise quarterback who is, the face in all likelihood, if he's that guy, he's the face of the team, he's the highest paid player. He should get a little bit of consideration in the hiring process of some positions. But I'm not sure if general manager is one of those. That seems to be a little bit much for me. I think if you're talking about some coaching hires, I think that's fair. But I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure if ownership needs to involve Deshaun Watson in the general manager realm. I think that's a bit of a stretch for me. Now, if Nick Cassero goes out here and makes a coaching hire and doesn't give any input to Deshaun Watson, then I think I could get a little bit more on board with that. But to me, when I look back I think right when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, that was the red flag for me. And that is where I think we could all, in some way, shape, or form, forecast this relationship going south.
Well, and it's funny you say that because isn't that when Deshaun Watson dropped like some song pretty much, you know, he was putting his feelings on the track pretty much about how they trade away DeAndre Hopkins, didn't really consult him about it. And he was like, you know, WTF pretty much. So even he felt that way.
Yeah, I don't quite recall that, but you remember when DeAndre Hopkins was traded, at some point pretty quickly after that, I was, of the opinion that I would think long and hard about signing an extension with the Houston Texans if this is how they're going to operate. Deshaun Watson just signed this big, this mega extension, which I think it's only Patrick Mahomes who's making more money at the quarterback position right now. And he just signed this, 4 or 5 months ago. So, I mean, if you have any awareness about you at all, and you can kind of, if I can see where this is headed, I don't know why Deshaun Watson couldn't. I mean, when you talk about chemistry between a quarterback and wide receiver, Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins had, perhaps the best thing smoking in the entire league. And for the Houston Texans to blow that up, that's just, you talk about conduct detrimental to the team. I mean, Bill O'Brien should be, he should go back to college football for, being that derelict in his duties. And of course, the ownership issue that I brought up from time to time, that stands as of right now. But at the same time, if you want to say perhaps ownership, should have, since they've, to me, kind of botched this whole thing and just been asleep at the wheel for years, maybe they should have taken some level of care, and maybe he should have been involved a little bit, or at least given a courtesy. Hey, this is hey, we hear your input, we hear all this, but this is what we think we should do based on what we have going right now. And again, this is the guy we were looking for last year, and maybe this was part of the big plan. We'll let Bill run it for the interim, and then when Caserio comes around next year, then we'll go that way. So I get the grievances. I think a lot of why Deshaun Watson should be unhappy or is unhappy, I think it's justified. But I think he should have had this level of outrage right when DeAndre Hopkins was traded. And I don't quite understand, once that happened, why you would want to sign an extension. When they trade away your best weapon like that, they don't seem to have your best interest in mind. And as much as we like Brandon Cooks and we like Will Fuller and Randall Cobb and some of these guys, none of those guys, even if you add them all together, Kenny Stills. None of those guys, even you add them all up, they're not DeAndre Hopkins. And you saw how that had an effect. And the Texans, they're just in a poor position right now with all the DeAndre Hopkins trade isn't the only one. There are other deals that Bill O'Brien made that they just weren't very smart. They put themselves in a tough position via the cap, the draft picks that they have. I mean, the draft crop that they have is not very strong. So outside of Deshaun Watson, and Cody has brought this up many a time, really, other than a franchise quarterback, this is not an attractive destination. So to me, I think they're in a bit of no man's land. Deshaun Watson is in no man's land. I think he knows that now, and now he's looking for the escape clause.
Yeah, definitely escape clause. Listen, I think Deshaun Watson did two things wrong here. First of all, hey, buddy, you play in the National Football League, not the National Basketball Association. Hey, Drink, what you talking about? Listen, in the NBA, players can sit here and say, I would like that guy to be the GM. I would like that guy to be the head coach. I would like that guy to be the second assistant, whatever the case might be. If you're LeBron, KD, some of the top of echelon guys, you can do that. You can't do that in the NFL. So when you come out and you complain, oh, they didn't consult me on the GM. Who gives a damn? This is the NFL. Like, many players don't get it, and I get it. If it was a player that would get the right to do that, it would be your franchise quarterback. I got that. But you're not in a franchise with the type of leadership that's going to allow that. You got to understand, we got to look at the history of the Houston Texans. We didn't heard the comments from the owners. We didn't see We didn't seen O'Brien just flounder around. Now they hiring this other guy. Like, to Jay's credit, they didn't pretty much slap Deshaun Watson front and backwards. They didn't hit him with the old wake up. Like, and instead of him capitalizing on that, because one thing my mom used to tell me, people gonna tell you who they are if you just show up and listen. And the Houston Texans have told him who they were if he would just sit down and listen. They didn't tell him that. Trade away best players, getting back bull crap. I mean, come on. Like, every year they done made the roster worse than better. If you actually look at it, every passing year they done made the roster worse. Since drafting Deshaun Watson, that roster has gotten worse every single year. And you can give me hey, Tunsil a Pro Bowler, man, please. You can give me that all you want to. I still didn't justify how you picked apart the defense to get them, how you picked apart your future to get them. It didn't justify it. I'm sorry. We was just talking about, before the show started, we was talking about the trade that Buffalo made with Minnesota. They made that trade and everybody seemed to win. Diggs won, Josh Allen won, Jordan Jefferson won, Cousins won, Minnesota won, Buffalo won. No doubt about it, right? Then I'm looking at the Texans. This is a straight S show, folks. A straight up S show. So that's one problem I got with Deshaun Watson, because it's not the NBA. It's not a player league. All right. It's the 32, it's the shield, it's all that good stuff, and it's been that way for quite some time. And I don't think your talent is good enough to change that. I'm just gonna be quite honest. It's gonna take one hell of a quarterback to change that thought process. Now, my second problem is you signed the extension. Just like Jay said, we sat here on this show and Jay gave out pro and cons of why he should and why he shouldn't. And then we bounced off those pro and cons, like maybe he should for this, maybe he shouldn't for that, whatever. It is very hard to tell a young man, hey, give up, how many ever $1 million and bet on yourself. In a game as dangerous as football, you probably get cussed out if you tell one of these guys that. However, it is certain players that should really consider that when you think about their talent level compared to their situation. And Deshaun Watson was one of those guys. Listen, I feel like this year, Dak Prescott, for example. If Dak Prescott would have been a free agent, he might not, a healthy Dak Prescott, he might not got a bunch of calls, because we always say that Dak probably was the best quarterback option for Dallas, but where did he fit in the rest of the NFL, right? Well, Deshaun Watson is the opposite. He gonna sell right now. People, they probably gonna try to lowball you, but hey, people gonna be inquiring about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like Facebook Marketplace. Oh man, I gotta inquire about this. Are you interested? Like, it's like one of them things, and then you going back and forth, won't. But you know what I'm saying? Deshaun Watson like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox, whatever. Like, people waiting on this. They hope he hit the market so they can get him. And I felt like that's what he should have did. He should have betted on himself. I got it. It's hard to give up money like that. We seen the contracts Scottie Pippen signed back in the day. It's hard to give up money. But he should have betted on himself. He should have tested the market and then went that way. But you signed this extension. So now you got to deal with it. We know how today's NFL go. If he don't want to play, he's going to get out here. He's going to kick and scream. He's going to ask for a trade. He's going to do all this. And then eventually he's going to get what he wants. Might not be the team you want to go to, but eventually he's going to get what he wants. Because you're out of your mind if you don't think he's going to get what he wants. They will figure it out. If Pittsburgh was able to trade Antonio Brown, I got to think the Texans are going to be able to trade Deshaun Watson. Because he ain't nowhere near the character that Antonio Brown was, and he still got traded twice or whatever the case might be. So I just feel like, Deshaun, if you're not going to answer their phone calls, whatever, don't answer the phone calls. I understand your problems, but you kind of put yourself in this situation. And stop crying about the GM. You ain't going to have the right to pick the GM. Stop crying. Like, that's too much. Like Jay said, if you want to talk about the head coach, you want to talk about the next wide receiver talent and, running backs, what you want the input, go ahead. GM, no. You ain't picking no VPs. You ain't picking no GMs. You ain't picking none of that. That's why the man upstairs, the owner, that's what he does. Or she does. You know what I'm saying? They pick that. So, I feel bad for Deshaun Watson, but I feel like this particular segment that we're talking about, he coming off a little bit whiny, just a tad bit whiny. Because you signed the contract. Like we signed a contract to come into the military, right? People cry about it or whatever, but when you complain about it, what's the first thing your leadership usually say? Well, you signed the contract.
You signed the contract.
Well, did you be here?
Did you get drafted?
Hey, I know it was 4 years, but it won 156 mil. I can tell you that much.
Right.
Yours wasn't? Oh man, they.
Can I just go back to the Antonio Brown piece real quick because it kind of ties into something I was thinking of. You remember the Antonio Brown would I think he was on LeBron James's show on HBO, The Shop.
Yeah, the Shop. Yep.
And he was I believe he was kind of lamenting, some of the kind of injustices he thought had been, levied against him. Mm-hmm. And it was like, what? I mean, it's not the same thing. It's the same point we're talking right here. I just think sometimes some of these NFL guys are a wee bit disconnected from reality. The NBA and NFL are not the same league. Right. LeBron James, he has all the pull because not only is he the best player in basketball, but that's a players' league, and we well know that. The NFL is not structured like that, and it's not set up like that. And I think these guys have to realize that.
Right, I agree. And that's why I brought that up, because when I heard that, I'm like, since when? So to wrap this up, listen, Deshaun, you signed a contract. You're a grown man. You got a team. I guess y'all will figure out how you do that. But stop crying about the GM. You're not going to have that right. And you shouldn't have that right, to be honest with you. I'm sorry. A franchise quarterback should not be hiring GMs. No, we ain't doing that. I don't believe that's good protocol in the NFL. I really don't like it in the NBA, but, it works more in the NBA. So you kind of, you go with it. But I don't think that should be a player's responsibility. So with that said, yeah, I kind of put this on Deshaun Watson more than I put it on the Texans. I guess he's a smart guy. They'll figure it out. But those were my two gripes about this situation.
Is that, and can I jump in just to that point real quick? That seems, when you talk about having influence over the GM, that seems to be something that I think is a stretch in the NBA as well. Do we have an example of an NBA player having influence over that role? Because I was just thinking, I can't think of one.
I will say I've heard, we've all heard the rumors that, hey, LeBron going to influence. So let's talk about the Lakers, for example. So Magic was there, LeBron comes in, then they like all chummy, and then right around the time they initially made that trade, where they tried to make the trade for Anthony Davis, send all those guys, to New Orleans. I remember it was something like, oh, who's making these trades, LeBron or Magic? So you get something like close to that, like that parallel. I think that's probably the closest you'll get to it. And it's not many players. It's like maybe three that really gets to say so, and LeBron being the biggest of them all. So that I think that's the closest situation you'll probably get to that in the NBA.
Yeah, this wouldn't work if you translated to any other mode of work. Let's say your twice removed boss at work was like, they came by and they was like, hey man, you're really good at what you do. You're like our best employee. How about you come in my office and we're going to talk about who the middle boss should be between us. I've been thinking about it. I'm not sure, so I'm going to ask you. You wouldn't do that. Like it's stuck. There's a reason that management is separate from the player. Now I get head coach is a little different. You got to find a coach that's going to work with your franchise quarterback. Obviously, that's that relationship is.
You're on the field together. That's why that matters. You're on the field together.
Right. So that there's maybe something there, but when you're talking about management, you're talking about guys that are going to be talking about salary caps and draft picks and talent scouting and all that. That's their world, man. Like you have to trust that your ownership made a good call. You would probably have some guys you'd want to see in there, but it's not your call. This isn't your decision. So I agree. I think, you look at what he did. He saw the Laramie Tunsil trade that saw 2 first-round picks and second-round pick come back for a lot of nonsense. Then he sees the DeAndre Hopkins trade where you get a second-round pick and a bad contract. That's what you got back. Good job. And then, but then we go back 4 or 5 months down the road, he signs his contract extension. Well,
right.
You must have been happy enough to sign out. No, I'm not going to knock anyone for signing a $40 million a year contract. Let's keep perspective. That's your great grandkids are set for life already. If at least. So you can't knock him for that completely, but at the same time, you had to see the writing on the wall. And if this is not something you wanted to be a part of for the long haul, you should have jumped ship, because when you look at this roster, it's bad. This roster was bad in September. I mean, it was bad before Bill O'Brien got kicked out for meddling with it so much. I mean, there is not a lot of talent on this roster. It's old, and like y'all were talking about, their picks. They have their third, 2/4, and then a couple of 6th and 7th rounders this year. They don't have a first. They don't have a second. Yeah, Miami's sitting there with a third overall pick or whatever it is, laughing, just laughing. And salary cap, they're about 17 million projected. It looks like they could move some stuff around. Maybe a guy like Whitney Merciless, you can maybe move on from him or something, eat a little dead cap, yada yada. But actually, it's not a great situation, and I get his frustration. He led the league in passing yards with 4,800, and they won 4 games. The 2 of them were the Jaguars. It's not.
Right.
It's not. This isn't working. And this roster needs a complete overhaul and rebuild, but you don't have the draft capital, so it's rough. He's probably frustrated, rightfully so. But man, you signed you wanted the bag. It's kind of like Bradley Beal. Like, you wanted the bag. Well, there's things that come with it, And if you saw the writing on the wall,
Like losing.
well, forget it, pay me. Then all right, well, okay, you deal with. You do. I'll say this real quick as far as the trade rumors go. If they were to trade him, I mean, the package would be absurd. I mean, you're talking about multiple first, probably another second or third, and probably some kind of decent player, depending on where those picks fall. I mean, it would be some Herschel Walker level nonsense. I mean, we've seen some big blockbusters where guys like Jalen Ramsey go for 2 firsts and change. I mean, you're talking about a franchise quarterback. It'd be insane. I don't know if
you giving up whoever your starting quarterback is too.
Right,
whoever your starting quarterback at the time, you giving them up.
The only teams I could see doing that, besides the Jaguars and the Jets that have all the extra capital and stuff this year, are teams like maybe like Vegas, who have a decent guy at quarterback that Texans could get and be good right now, and then a whole bunch of future picks and stuff. But that's going to be a hard one to swing, not because of the player he is, but really, I guess, because of the player he is, and then what it's going to cost to get him. So if that goes forward, boy, get your popcorn ready. That's going to be an interesting deal if that happens. But I think they'll get it repaired. I think they'll figure it out. But this is going to be something that follows them for a while, I think, in the franchise.